There are tons of data in the financial market. It's perfect for us practice our data analytics skills or predictive skills by using stock market data because the data are all free and it's open, always available. So it's actually the best data for who needed to practice their data analytics skills, but they have no data to analyze. For you to even start with, you will have to be able to retrieve or download stock prices from the internet. It's pretty easy for us to download historical stock prices from Yahoo Finance, but the problem is the stock market always have new data every single day, at least every single trading day. So we wouldn't want to repeat this for so many times that we have to manually download the data, and this is just for one stock. What about if we are going to download for tens or even hundreds or 1,000 stocks to analyze the relationship between different stock prices and how the stock prices react to the market and things like that. So we will need to somehow automate this process of downloading the data and analyze it and or push it into our database, locally or your own databases. Or if your company uses stock prices to analyze data for some time to market pricing, so you might need this kind of automation in your company to automate the data stream into a database. So to even start with, we need to learn how we can use Python, download the data. This is what we are going to talk about. So let's get started. So we need to first connect to an API. You can think of an API like a connection between your local computer to the internet, to somebody that provides the data. And this API is the way your local computer will communicate with somebody providing that data. When you have connected to the API, you can extract the data from their servers. Now go to the API that provides free stock prices for developers. So there are a lot of APIs out there, but I would just like to introduce you Rapid API. This is free, and even if you want to scale up to enterprise level, you can always pay a certain fee to get some additional features. Right, so we will go to best stock market and brokerage APIs, and there are a lot of APIs here that serve. Some of them might serve the same purpose, some might serve different purpose, some for different markets, some for different derivative. So in our tutorial, we are going to use Alpha Vantage, and here is our page that we get our stock prices. So if you are visiting this page for the first time, you might need to create an account for this Rapid API. I'll skip that part for the account registration. Now we'll talk about retrieve the stock prices from this Alpha Vantage. The first thing we are going to do is choose what kind of data we like to connect to. Daily stock prices, or weekly stock prices, or monthly stock prices. So in our case, we are going to choose time series daily adjusted. So the difference between daily and daily adjusted takes stock split into accounts. A stock goes for 1 to 20 splits, the stock prices might cut by 20 times in one trading days. Is totally misleading if you didn't take that stock splitting into consideration. So this is what the adjusted means. So we always take the adjusted preferably. Now here we are going to choose what kind of ticker symbol for the stock that we want. In this case, it will be Microsoft. You can always replace this Microsoft with something that you like Apple or Tesla. In this case, I will stick back with Microsoft. The output size, you're going to choose full instead of compact. Compact returns only the latest 100 data points, and full will returns the full-length time series of 20 plus years of historical data. If you want to get the full data, you will save this as full. If you are just retrieving to append the latest data, you can choose for the 100 data points. The data type will stick with JSON. We are going to choose the language that we like to retrieve the data. So in this case, we are using Python. The library is request. This is the code that we are going to use. But before we click on this, we are going to test endpoint. This test endpoint is to actually check the result whether this is the output that you're expecting or not. Now, when we look at the result tab, we are going to see here there are 5,818 keys. If this shows 100 keys, it means you are leaving this as compact. The keys here basically means how many data points or how many days that you are trying to retrieve. If you choose a monthly or weekly time series, this number is going to be totally different. When we scroll all the way down, we're going to see the earliest data that we have is actually 1999, the 1st of November. This shows that we got actually quite many years of data. We are satisfied with this result, so we are going to come back to our code snippets and copy the code. Now let's go to our Jupyter notebook, and then we're going to paste the code into our Jupyter notebook. And if you haven't already, you will need to install the library. Because I already installed, so it's going to say requirements already satisfied. Otherwise, it will help you to install all dependent library. After you have installed the library, run the code that we try to copy just now. Response is the variable where we store the dictionary of our data. Before I explain to you what this data is, I want to store the original data set into a file so that when we mess up with things later, we always have an original file to refer to. So this is my code file, extract stock prices, and I'm going to create a new folder called JSON, and I'm going to store my file inside this folder. Define path as the file path of this working directory. Inside this folder, there is another folder called JSON here, and I will get the path to my JSON folder. Then to write it as a JSON file, we will need library JSON. We are going to need to install the library called JSON. Write the file into the folder called JSON. Now we open our file explorer. We're going to see there's a file called Microsoft Stock Price, which is the folder name, the file name that I gave it here. This is a name that you can change according to a preference, but always remember to put the .json file type at the back and W as writing the data into the file. Alright, and this file is open as a variable called outfile. So we are going to use json.dump. We're going to dump this variable, convert into a JSON format, and dump it into a folder, into an object called outfile. Alright, and this outfile is actually the file that we open as an outfile variable. So this variable and this variable must be the same name. Alright, and this response is actually the thing that store our data here, and we convert into a JSON format. Then to make sure that we are writing the correct format, we try to read from our file again to make sure that we can read correctly. And you'll notice that this and this is actually very similar, except that this is a JSON format. Right, so we are doing the right thing by storing it. Now let's try to understand this data a little bit. This JSON format, we are loading the open file with context manager. We open the file named by us itself, Microsoft Stock Price.json. This time, instead of writing, we use a reading context manager. Open this file as open file variable, and this variable is loaded into this JSON object. We are going to try to understand what this JSON object is. Use the type function and notice that this JSON object is a dictionary. If you do not know what is a dictionary, please go and search for it, try to understand it, because this is a very important and very useful data structure in Python and a lot of other programming languages. Since a dictionary has a lot of keys and values, you like to know what are the main keys for our JSON object. The good thing about dictionary is you can loop the key and values using a for loop. So I'm going to say for the key and values in JSON object dot items, what are the key that I have? So the key is the metadata and the time series daily. This is actually the daily stock prices data. So you can see that the first key stores our information about the data. For example, what is the ticker symbol? What is the last data that we have? What is the output size and time zone? That's all about it. But actually, the thing that we wanted is actually the time series daily that actually stores all our data here. So now I'm going to define JSON object time series daily as a variable called data. All the stock prices data, you can see that this is actually another dictionary that the date is a key for the dictionary, and the value for that key is actually all of the prices, open prices, high prices, low prices. And even the prices itself is another dictionary where the key is a header and the value is the value for that header, right? So this JSON object is actually a nested dictionary. So we are going to convert this into a pandas data frame for our Python data analysis. Data is a dictionary. It means that I can also loop this thing again. So I'm going to copy this code and I'm going to paste it here, but I change the object into data. Data.items. And when I try to print the keys, it's going to give me all the keys, which is the date for date range of this entire data set. And when I change this into values, it's going to give me all the data. When I want to convert into a data frame, I need to use the pandas library. I'm going to define data frame as pandas data frame from a dictionary. I is the I in the data keys. What does this mean? It's actually we try to loop dictionary because it's a nested dictionary. So for each data.keys, I'm going to retrieve the values for that data. The data.keys is actually the date for the stock price, and data I is actually values for the data sets. So we're trying to convert the dictionary into a pandas data frame. It's going to put my key into the index, and it's going to put my second key into the second column, the column header, and the values will be the values in the columns. But now we actually would like to put my index into a column instead, because this date is not supposed to be an index, it's supposed to be a column called date. So I'm going to push this into a column instead of an index. So when we convert our dictionary into a pandas data frame, the date will be put as an index, and to push the index into a columns, we're going to use df.rename axis, and we're going to rename the axis, the index, into date, and then we're going to reset the index. This will actually push the date column into the table. Here we go. This is actually the data that we want in a table form. All we need to do now is to export this to a file. I'm going to create a folder called output in the same working directory as my Python code here, and I'm going to output this as a CSV file, and here we go. we have our CSV file with all the stock prices data. And if you don't want to have a index, then we are going to use index equals to false. And here we go, extracting stock prices with Python. And thank you so much for watching my videos. And I will see you again in my next video.